So I saw this interview with the CEO of Patreon, and he was sort of talking about how because of things like TikTok's model of a more for you page, which is basically of interest, versus the older model of basically you're following various users, this has sort of affected a lot of the economy of followers. And this is largely because of the fact that Patreon is sort of exploiting the fact that people form these parasocial relationships with online influencers to make their money, because the fact that these online influencers don't get much advertising revenue from these sites, they are forced to use these sort of third party services in order to supplement their income, in order to make these sort of things viable. And Patreon is one of the primary ways that this is done. And it is an interesting sort of interview, mostly because he is trying to solve the problem of the fact that it's more difficult to form parasocial relationships with people in places like a TikTok than you can form them in other places, because you don't see this person as frequently, as well as their content is a lot more short form, so you don't have that sort of long form engagement that you would get in other places like a YouTube historically, and even places to a large extent like an Instagram, where you might see a feed of the images and you sort of have that sort of parasocial relationship of you being there essentially. And I do find this both an interesting thing and also a very callous thing on his part, because he frames it as if he is doing some trying to solve a problem to help everyone else out, when he's really trying to solve his own revenue issues. Um, but I do think that this is something that is interesting to think about, because of the fact that a lot of these services aren't going to suddenly start paying creators based off of their advertising cut in any sort of meaningful way. That's never going to happen, because they don't want to cut into their own revenue stream. But how will creators be able to make the kind of money necessary in order to maintain their engagement on these platforms in the future, especially if everyone else sort of adopts a more TikTok format, where you're basically only being shown stuff you might engage more frequently in, rather than content that you are following, essentially. Those are my thoughts. Thank you very much. Bye.